Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night, where you guys know the spiel at this point. We take an older series, probably from the 90s, and we analyze episode by episode, but we do it in bigger chunks. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And joining me, obviously, is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, we finally hit the end of this trail. 51 episodes are in the books. That seems like a lot, but, well, it kind of is, because series don't do this anymore. How are you, Andrea?
I'm fine.
So, yeah, we have the last three episodes of Beyblade Season 1 to take care of, and quite an interesting way to start this off, because the Bladebreakers are already in the losing column as of this point. So Kai was the first to go up against the Demolition Boys and lost against the Demolition Boys and lost his beloved Dronzer. Not Black Dronzer, which he exiled into an icy river, and then the Demolition Boys destroyed it. But the original Dronzer. The one that we all love so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time for round 2, and that is where episode 49, A Wicked Wind Blows, comes into play. So up next, because Max can't go, Max already lost Dracil, is Ray, and Ray will be going up against Brian. I mean, he already has a dastardly name, right? And what makes it even worse is that he has the voice of a Bond villain. Why, yes, Ray. Actually, you know what? He actually sounds like that dude Anthony Hopkins plays from Silence of the Lambs. Hello, Clarice. Hello, Ray.
I don't know that show, so...
Well, you don't know about a serial killer cannibal? Jeez. I've been hopping you up too much on zombies. Nah, it's fine. Brian, however, is handpicked for Ray because Voltaire, after having Kai betray him, is not putting up with any nonsense. He wants the Bladebreakers destroyed. Utterly. Not a trace left. And so Boris proposes that they use Brian. Why? Brian has a bit of a reputation for being a tad physical, or at least a little bit more overzealous than his other teammates on the Demolition Boys. And so he is going to be going up against Ray with his... Oh, crap, what was it? It was not Wolborg. That's the next one. Fallborg. It was a Falcon. Mm-hmm. So Fallborg up against Drigger, and immediately round 1 is taken by Brian. Because we get to see some of his more unorthodox tactics. He has a bit of a bad habit, as he has no problem with his Bit Beast, Fallborg, attacking his opponent. And by opponent, I don't mean the Bit Beast or the top. I mean the actual Blader. Mm-hmm. And this takes Ray off guard, as I believe the first one was he knocked off a piece of the dish and sent it flying into Ray's stomach, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is funny because the arena is like powered by RPMs, so you think it would have been with enough force to, go through Ray. But this is a kid's anime. We can't do that. We can't have that. But hey, if this was like an old school 90s anime, dude, his stomach would be like a crater at this point. I'm just saying, blood everywhere. But no, kids anime, can't do that. So just really quick, what did you think about Brian's unorthodox style?
I'm kind of surprised they don't disqualify him.
Considering who we just barely dealt with in the previous episode, I'm guessing that Brian and... Crap, what was the other kid's name? Let me see if I can dig that out. If I were to take a wild guess, It only gives him his Russian name. Or actually, no, never mind. Maybe I'm not reading this right. Yeah, no, it only gives his Russian name, so Sergey. But I can't remember what his actual name. It was like Michael or something like that. It was dumb.
No, I
or
don't
like
think
Steven or something like that. But between Brian and Steven, my guess is they're the muscle on the Demolition Boys. Now, Yuri, the first kid, dude, the kid with the big nose, looks like he belongs in a Miyazaki film. He's probably more of a defensive player, whereas Tala, the leader, is probably the more balanced. But Brian and, let's just say Steven for right now, with Seaborg and with Fallborg, they are probably the muscle of this. Because remember, when Steve faced off against Kai, and also with Max, he used Seaborg to intimidate. So at that point, first round goes to Brian. Second round is where Ray starts to get used to the torrent of abuse that Brian starts sending to him, because it's not just that he's going to send the arena at him. Fallborg has the ability to manipulate the wind, and in this case, he's basically making like tiny little wind blades that go and attack Ray. And I mean, he is attacking Drigger, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the wind attacks that are coming from Fallborg are going to Drigger, or to Ray, and basically trying to slice him into bits.
Yeah, but I thought Ray beat him first, because
Brian won first.
No, because he said, I let you beat me the first time.
Yeah, Brian won.
Yeah.
I let you win, and then at that point, you're thinking of the other one.
No,
Brian won the first time because he was showing off his intimidation.
Are you sure?
You're thinking of Tala.
No, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so second round, it becomes a lot more menacing and a lot more difficult for Ray to hold out, because now he's not only got to fight this Beyblade battle, but he's also got to take the torrent of abuse that is coming from Brian. And this is actually the point where I believe it isn't necessarily... Actually, you know what? You might be right. I think he might have won the first round, but then he got the piece of the arena to go at Ray's stomach, just to kind of show who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, this is where the torrent of abuse actually starts. And Ray, I think this was when the hairband got cut, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this right here and now. If this was Ninja Scroll and not Beyblade, that blade would have gone clean through him, because it's actually like an upward strike that takes out his headband. And then, like I said, if this was Ninja Scroll, Ray would have been cut clean in half. And if this was a modern day anime with a lot of female characters, the outfit would have been cut in half, and you would have gotten nothing but a chicken or underoos. But no, Ray does not get that. And the final blow from the air attacks in this round, even though it technically does, I believe this does go to Ray, the final strike is the one that hammers the rest of his hairband, where like he's got this ginormous ponytail. That's where that just goes and explodes. And so now Ray looks very much like Inuyasha, pardon the pun, Andrea, on his period.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not apologizing for pointing out actual facts of another anime. If you're pissed off by what I just said, there's the door. So yeah, now, whether or not we have the wins right or wrong, they are neck and neck. So one more match is going to determine this, and this is where Brian, because I believe he does win the second round, Brian is thrown off entirely by that, and he just goes full bore, unrelenting assault on Ray. While Drigger is trying to take care of Fallborg, he also tries to shield Ray from the assault. And so we get this weird deal where, like, the aura of Drigger kind of, like, doesn't even form into a Bit Beast. It's just like a little globule, and it forms around Ray. And Ray is just mangled and cut to shreds at this point, and you could tell he's having difficulty actually, and the other thing, too, is that after this second round, he had to go to the back, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the assault. And so he's having trouble standing, but he's got to get through this. And so he musters up all of his final strength. He finally finds an opening with Fallborg. That's exactly what happened. The second round did go to Ray because he uses the exact same tactic. Because he found his opening in between the assault and he had Drigger attack.
That's true.
And so at that point, he does the exact same thing again. And we were making jokes about this in the third round because he was basically going, Trigger, final attack! And we were like, Kagome!
Oh, jeez.
So, because he looked like Inuyasha at that point. And thankfully, Ray is able to clench the victory for the Bladebreakers. They are now 1-1. Unfortunately for Ray, he then collapses and is wheeled into the back to receive some medical attention. With Mariah at his hip, I should point out. Final thoughts on A Wicked Wind Blows. How did we feel about Brian, considering that this was like his first and only time to show up? Definitely a bad guy, Blader.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely a bad guy, Blader. And also Voltaire, not very happy right now because Brian lost. So, sorry, that's the way it goes. And so what are the positives of this episode? Would we call the battle between Ray and Brian a positive? I would. I'd consider it hard fought.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like that. Were there any negatives in it?
It was just silly.
It's silly, but like again, if this was Berserk, if this was MD Geist, Ray would be a pile of blood and muscles on the ground. There was just so, and also if he was a female protagonist, he'd be in nothing but his underoos at this point. So just saying. Don't give me that. No, you know this. Well, Shield Hero's done similar stuff like this.
I know, but I just find it like I am surprised they even would not like disqualify him for even doing that kind of.
I have a feeling that if DJ Jazzman actually did try to disqualify him, Voltaire would have stopped him.
That'd be true.
Either that or Boris would have stopped him because I don't think that they know that Voltaire's in charge, but they know Boris is, and so Boris would be like, well, that's the way it goes, you know, because and on top of that, it'd be pretty hypocritical because they could have easily ended the match between Kai and Steven, because we don't remember what his name is. They could have easily ended it there, and they didn't.
That's true.
So,
but it's just.
Yeah. I can't really say that there's too much of a negative because this is pretty much what needed to happen because they did need to stack the odds against the Bladebreakers. But.
Well, it's better than I guess that was probably better than the other one when one of the early matches where Atop could make the stadium go in heat.
I mean, we're about to have the opposite effect of that. Uh-huh. So you're right, but I'm kind of surprised that he didn't just kind of create a full-on hurricane in the arena.
True.
Because he could have easily done that. And Tyson's done it. Mm-hmm. So what the heck's wrong with you, Brian? Out of 5, what would we give A Wicked Wind Blows?
4.5.
I'll give it a 4. It's pretty much what it needs to be. But now we get into episode 50, which is going to be going over the final round. Tyson versus Tala. And Tala is the leader of the Demolition Boys. And we actually get a break because Ray is now in the hospital, but really it looks like he's in a training room on an IV with Mariah right next to him.
No surprise there.
With his hair just everywhere. I mean, okay, I've had long hair, but it's only ever been to like shoulder length. Doesn't it get like really bad at a point where you're lying on your own hair that you're just gonna tug on it? Poor Ray, because he had lots of hair. So they're having a little bit of a break, enough so that I believe they call it for the day after the second round. And this is actually what gets Voltaire screaming at Boris because Brian lost. But Boris is like, it's okay, Voltaire, it's okay. We've still got this in the bag because we have CYBER-TALA. What do we mean by that? Long story short, we cut to the same room where we saw the manufactured tubes and things like that. And Tala is in one of those tubes, and he's going to be getting cyber brain implants that are going to make him even better than he already is, thus creating CYBER-TALA. So, all right, we have a bunch of pseudoscience in there, but that's all right, because the Bladebreakers are also going to be having their own level of pseudoscience, because the All-Stars are back. They went all the way to the US, and then all the way back to the Russians in the span of 2 days, might I add, and also did a, quote, bunch of homework on the data that they have about Dragoon in order to optimize Dragoon to its fullest. But it's cool because they stopped in Japan on the way and grabbed Max's dad. Because it just so happens that Max's dad is the greatest Beyblade designer, according to Judy, his wife, in the world. Don't question this. It's anime logic. So they have created the ultimate Dragoon Beyblade, which I'm guessing Tyson would just put the bit on. But they want to test it. They can't. Why? Because Tyson got taken out by Kai to the middle of a forest to train. We're having a training montage. Mr. Dickinson's finally getting what he wanted. Kai is the coach.
Yay.
And so now a Dronzer-less Dronzer is taking on Dragoon in the middle of a forest while they slice trees apart with their Beyblades. And they're getting in a good workout. But Tyson thought he was done. Heck no, because this is the point where Robert, Michael, and Lee, just those three, right? Yeah, it wasn't their teams. It was just the leaders.
Yeah, it was Michael,
Michael, Robert, and Lee.
Yeah.
All three of them, they come out and they're going to help with the training because they've all fought Tyson and therefore they can help him grow even more. Bullshit.
Of course, Michael never faced him. Now, and here's the other thing too. They're all acting as if they've all won against Tyson. And again, I call bullshit because only Robert has taken a W against Tyson. Lee did not. Well, he took mini wins, but they technically tied, and thus it was Lee and Ray that faced off for the Asian Cup. So even if we put those two together, Michael has never faced Tyson. And so yeah, they go into this huge training montage in the middle of the woods where it's Tyson versus Kai versus Michael versus Lee versus Robert to help him train for the final battle. And then we get to the next day. And now it's official. It's going to be Tala versus Tyson. They have done everything they can to prepare Tyson for this moment. And Tyson wins the first round. Oh my gosh, this is already turning. Oh, yeah. Tala let him win the first round. In fact, it was pretty neutral for a while there. And then an opening did happen, and Tyson took advantage of it. And then Tala basically admits, I created that opening. I wanted you to win this so that I could take all your hope away. This is then when he summons his Bit Beast Wolborg and unleashes a massive freezing attack on the entire arena.
Now, according to Beyblade logic, an attack like this would have frozen the entire arena, correct, Andrea?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Only one big dome-like icicle in the middle of the arena. Everybody else was perfectly fine. Keep in mind, though, in a past episode, we dealt with a Beyblade that literally cooked an entire stadium. But no, we didn't have the opposite effect here. Nobody was super cold. Everybody was fine. Beyblade logic, everybody.
They just saw a big
Yes.
iceberg in the middle of the arena there.
And Tyson and Tala are nowhere to be seen. Presumably, they are in the block. So that's where the episode ends.
Not to mention, it's like, how can you view the bladers if they're in the block of ice?
That's a very good question. It's a very complicated answer I have for you, Andrea, but hey, look over there, a three-headed monkey! Aw, you didn't even look. Well, there's your answer. Positives for new and cyber improved. I mean, the training montage was cool.
That was pretty fun.
All the Tala stuff was bullshit, but, you know, the montage was cool. I'll make that one of my positives. What's a positive for you, Andrea?
Yeah, I just love the whole like training in the woods and all that stuff, and it was
except for the bullshit of all of us have won against you. Nope, Michael never faced him. Remember, Michael faced Max, and Max won the U.S. tournament because that was part of his character arc. Any other positives? Okay, negatives. What did this episode do wrong? All the Tala bullshit. That was totally unnecessary. He's CYBER-TALA. They even reworked Tala's dialogue to make him sound more robotic.
Was he always a cyborg like?
No.
Or was it?
I'm going to say no because he never acted robotic when we saw him in previous outings.
But then I wonder whatever happened to the original then.
He got the brain implants. Yeah, I love this. He's CYBER-TALA, yet there's no cybernetic piece of him that's being shown. You know what cyber is, right?
Yeah.
Writers. He's supposed to have like a robotic arm or a robotic eye or something like that. That's how you know he's cybernetic.
But no,
we don't get that. So I'm going to call the Tala bullshit a negative here because it was needless filler. Like, we already knew that Tala was pretty damn powerful just because he was already calm, cool, and collected as the leader of the Demolition Boys. And we know he's the leader because they mentioned it when Kai was like, I don't need these ruffians. So we know he's the leader. So you didn't really need that. But they decided to do it. Any negatives for you?
no, it was just so confusing. But you know,
Did you think that Tala needed to let Tyson win?
I'm surprised.
I think that kind of goes against the character because he's supposed to be calm, cool, and collected, right?
Yeah,
But that's not a very calm, cool, and collected thing to do. I mean, I guess if you were really arrogant, but Tala's never really given us that impression. His teammates have. He just hasn't. So out of 5, what would we give new and cyber improved? I'm going to knock this down to a 3.5. Because of the Tala bullshit.
yeah, I go 3.5.
Yeah, it's not that great, but that's okay because we're going into episode 51, Final Showdown. The Final Showdown! We immediately go into the icy world that now only Tala, Wolborg, Dragoon, and Tyson inhabit. Because according to Tala, it isn't just that he put them in a huge ice block. He, quote, sent them to another dimension.
Okay.
Because science, everybody. Actually, no, because shonen anime, everybody. They were not in another dimension. Do we believe that nonsense? They were just in an icy block. That's fine. So they go immediately into the second round, and this is where Tala decides to basically throw all the bit beasts that he has acquired from Black Dronzer and infuse them into his Wolborg to basically do like one big final one-hit attack on Dragoon. And unfortunately, it works. Tyson, and actually, unfortunately, Dragoon takes the assault so that Tyson doesn't have to. And in turn, loses the round because you basically see Dragoon's like frozen corpse on the ground around Tyson. And this is the point where Tyson, looking at the fallen Dragoon, kind of loses hope in this whole situation. As most shonen protagonists will in this moment. But after a while of silence, and everybody else basically doing every kind of exposition they possibly can, Tyson picks himself up, brushes his nose, and does the stereotypical shonen protagonist smirk, and says, I haven't been in a battle this fierce since the last one I was in. And basically says, I'm ready for round 3, and I will not lose. I will beat you because I have the heart of the cards, etc., etc., etc. And we even get to see Dragoon come back, and this is the unique part. Dragoon speaks to Tyson and says, if I'm saying this wrong, correct me. As long as you have hope have hope in me, I will never let you down. It was basically like that. As long as you have faith that I can win, then it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to... It was basically like saying, you don't have to funnel your anger into me. Just believe in me. And I will win. And this is when Tala does not believe in the heart of the cards bullshit and powers up yet another multi-bit beast assault on Tyson. And Dragoon takes it. Remember, they are 1-1 at this point. Dragoon takes it and immediately unleashes his attack on the... Because in this final attack, with the merging of the Bit Beast, Wolborg becomes like this micro sun, and Dragoon attacks the sun and destroys it. And because he destroyed it, that has sent all of the Bit Beasts, not acquired by the other Demolition Boys, just the ones that Tala had, which apparently is all of them, all of the Bit Beasts back to their respective owners. And Tala loses. Tyson has done it. The Bladebreakers are world champions. So you'd think that he'd get a nice break after that, right? Nope. Because as soon as that happens, first of all, Voltaire's plans are ruined. He isn't technically arrested by any means, but because he's been stopped here, Mr. Dickinson and Tyson's dad and Tyson's grandpa all basically confront him and say, we have everything we need to take you down, to which Voltaire just kind of walks off like Giovanni from Team Rocket. Kind of thing. He's going to go and sulk in his mansion, kind of thing. But then we go back to the Bladebreakers and we find out that Tyson, unfortunately, does not get to have a break now that he's a world champion. Nope. In fact, he is challenged by everybody there. Except the Demolition Boys. I don't think the Demolition Boys were in that challenge.
No, I don't think so.
And I even like the fact that Tyson was like, hey, DJ Jazzman, give me a break here. And DJ Jazzman, in turn, decides to send out his Beyblade. And so then that's basically how the episode ends, is that they are world champion Beybladers, but now they are individuals, not a team, and they have their own personal scores to settle. And we basically end on our favorite three words: let it rip. So, final showdown. What did it do right?
It was kind of nice that you got, like, they were like, well, if Tyson loses, then that means the rest of, like, the Majestics and even Kevin was included in there because they still had their Bit Beasts and stuff like that.
Well, what do you mean?
Remember when Judy
I don't remember what they said, that they all lose their bit beast. Oh, no, you're talking about when he basically...
No, if Tyson loses...
Yeah, they had to basically have one more assault on Tala. Mm-hmm. And so Robert was supposed to lead that. I don't think Kevin was there.
Yeah, Kevin was there.
Was he?
He was the only... Yeah, he was the only member of the White Tigers that still had a bit beast.
I don't think he was in that group that Judy talked to.
No, he was.
Okay.
Which is why it's like...
I remember the Majestics there, but...
No, I just saw him there because I'm like, wow, have we all forgotten that he still had his bit?
Because that's when the Dark Bladers showed up, right? And they came to cheer on Tyson as well. So you like that moment. Despite the fact that I have knocked Tyson very thoroughly in this review, I actually did like when he stepped up and brushed his nose and was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Because that's what you expect from a shonen protagonist. That's what you want. Mm-hmm. That's what you came to see. So his performance was what it needed to be.
Oh yeah, especially he's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna win this.
Yep. Any other positives that we want to throw out? I wish I could say the confrontation with Voltaire was a positive, but it really wasn't. It was more exposition than anything. I don't want to call it a negative, but it's definitely somewhere in the middle.
And I just love it when Kai's like, you know, if you take on one of us, you're taking on all of us, you know?
Yeah, something to that extent. Yeah, any other positives that we can mention? I would also say the circumstances were probably a positive, because you basically put Tyson in a absolute no-win scenario. Mm-hmm. He couldn't hear the fans. He couldn't see his friends. He couldn't pull a Sora from Kingdom Hearts here. He was all alone. But he wasn't. Mm-hmm. Because he had Dragoon. And that's all he needed.
Yeah.
So I like the circumstances that were set up.
And funny how Tala could apparently hear what's going on the outside or something.
Well, he's the one that created the arena. Yeah, so, of course, he has that power. And I'll also give a positive to Tala. Mm-hmm. The way that Tala was presented in this is like, yep, he is elitist, arrogant villain. I'm going to use all your bit beasts to destroy you, etc. Yeah. Any negatives that we would give? For the sake of being fair, I will mention the discussion with Voltaire. Just is something to put in the negative column, because it was kind of lackluster. Mm-hmm. It was basically Mr. Dickinson saying, we have everything on you. You better walk away. And Voltaire just kind of walks away in a huff. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even, like, say, you know, Boris, you're fired or anything like that. He just walks away.
Oh, and what's the deal with the whole thing with Drigger disappearing and then magically shows up?
No, that was at the end of episode 49. Yeah, I think, you know, if we actually do hand out awards at the end of this, I am going to give the Deadbeat Bit Beast award to Drigger. Because Drigger just doesn't want to stay.
Well, because it made it sound like he was gone forever.
No, what they basically made it sound like is because he guarded Ray from Brian, that he left the Bit Beast because he basically took the assault and, quote, died. Mm-hmm. But then Drigger's back in the last episode, ready to go. So, yeah, I mean, I've debated whether or not when we do wrap-ups that we ought to hand out awards for people. And I think I'd give the Deadbeat Bit Beast award to Drigger.
Yeah.
Whereas I would probably give the Yami Yugi award to Dragoon for basically, if you have faith in me and the heart of the cards, you can never lose. Kind of thing, but we'll discuss this later. Any other negatives?
No, I don't think so.
You know what? You mentioned the Judy moment because you liked it. I actually didn't. This is actually one of those moments where I felt like Judy was kind of going back to old habits. And I get why they did it, but this was where, like, you needed to have faith in Tyson. That's what this needed to have happen so that we could then build up him standing up and facing Tala. And instead, you're off talking to other people like, look, if Tyson loses, okay, and I'm not saying he will, but you all need to assault Tala as hard as you can. that kind of took away from it. These are nitpicks, but they are negatives to the episode as far as I'm concerned. Any others?
Nope.
Out of 5, what would we give Final Showdown?
I'd give it 4.5.
4.5. It's the ending that needed to happen at the end of it, and I'm actually very happy with how that turned out. So that's actually going to go ahead and do it for us for this series. But what we're going to do is we're going to wait a couple of weeks, first of all, because we have a vacation coming up, but also because we normally do this. We wait a couple of weeks and we let Beyblade kind of simmer with us, and then we will be back to do a formal wrap-up of Beyblade Season 1, give our final thoughts, say who the better and the worst characters were, maybe even hand out some awards. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that one. In the meantime, though, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're supporting us on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and a subscribe on the video. It really does actually help us out, and it helps out with the algorithms and such. If you're supporting via podcasts, you can support us on Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Player.fm, as well as Spotify. And thank you for joining us on this 51-episode journey that we will wrap up in a couple of weeks, and then we've already got the next series set up, but you won't know what it is until the wrap-up. So we will see you guys next time for the Beyblade Season 1 wrap-up. Until then, Andrea, you now need to do this on your own.
Let it rip.
Thank you.